Yeah, it's really troubling, Esther. The UN says the seasonal rains, they're also called the GU rains, they fall now through June. They're intensifying, and they could affect nearly 800,000 people in parts of Somalia. As you mentioned, the Hirshabelle River, which begins in the highlands of Ethiopia and then flows down into Somalia, is at very high risk levels, and there have been flooding in several towns, which you mentioned, and those 4 children were killed. 100 shelters for displaced people have been damaged or washed away, but UN and humanitarian agencies are on the ground. They've stepped up their response. We're told they've activated 19 task forces, identified 67 evacuation sites, and they have about 51 boats at 10 of these locations on standby, ready to evacuate residents. So they're trying to get people to safer ground. But of course, they're also concerned because the rains, the floods pose health risks. There's already a watery diarrhea and cholera outbreak in Somalia. And in the past month alone, they've seen nearly 3,000 more cases. So this is worrying, especially because the country has a severe shortage of the oral cholera vaccine right now.
Margaret, as you can see, the same thing happened to the neighboring country of Kenya, the same chaos, climate change effects. But what is being done now for Ethiopia to protect Ethiopians that have been displaced by these armed clashes?
Yeah, so we're seeing a resurgence of violence in Amhara. That is the second most populated region in Ethiopia. So that is very troubling, because if the fighting continues, it could really have severe humanitarian consequences with so many people living there. Most of the displaced are, of course, women, children, the elderly. We're told that some of them are sheltering in host communities. Others are in an exposed outdoor area near Kobo town. Again, rainy season, they're exposed to the elements, so it's not really a very good situation. The UN says the numbers of displaced in Amhara have tripled from 15,000 a few weeks ago, or a week ago actually, to 50,000 now. So it's growing rapidly, which is another bad sign. And humanitarians are trying to relocate some of the people. We understand that there is some commercial transportation available. Some routes are open, but not all routes are available or safe. So it's still a very fluid and unstable situation in the north of Ethiopia.
What else is OCHA proposing to do? Because, you know, that's so close together, Ethiopia and Somalia, neighbors right there. What else do they propose that might help alleviate this kind of suffering?
Well, look, they need funding. I mean, this is the #1 thing in both situations. All the humanitarian appeals at the United Nations across the board are substantially underfunded. And if they don't have the money, they can't do sustainable responses to these situations. And they can't pre-plan more than a month or 2 out. It's very difficult. So they're doing what they can with their stretched resources.
Right.